Hey there, my name is Drew Brashler, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about the Yamaha DM3, and I actually have the Yamaha DM3-D, which is the Dante version. Now, if you're brand new to my channel, I'm all about helping you feel more confident with your production gear, no matter where you're starting from. Now, if you are wanting to learn more about audio and get some more tips and tricks from me, I have a weekly newsletter that you can sign up for free over at audiotoolkit.co. So head over there and sign up for that, and that'll come to your inbox every week. Now, let's go ahead and dive in on this mixer and learn about everything it has to offer. Now, this mixer has 16 XLR ins, 8 XLR outs. It has a USB 2.0 interface that gives you an 18 in and an 18 out over that USB to connect to a DAW or your computer. And the DM3D has a Dante card installed on this, and it gives you 16 in, 16 out over Dante. Now, this mixer operates at either 48 kilohertz or 96 kilohertz. Now, that means that this could interface with a CL or a QL system at 48 kilohertz, or if you are needing to interface this with a Yamaha Rivage or the new DM7, this can operate at 96 kilohertz. Now, that also means that this can operate with the old TO and Rios or the new 96K TO and Rios with the D2. Now, the Yamaha DM3 surface is broken up into a couple sections. We have our touchscreen that's very large and easy to touch, and then we have 9 faders here on the bottom, which are broken up into 6 fader banks. So we can see that we have inputs 1 through 8, as well as our stereo left-right. We have inputs 9 through 16, and then we have our effects returns plus our monitoring section, as well as a stereo input. And then we have our output section, which gives us all of our mixes, our matrix, and our main left-right. And then we have 2 custom fader banks that we can custom define what are on those. We have custom 1, and then we have custom 2. We also have 6 user-defined keys down here on the bottom right-hand side, which allows us to control different parameters on the board depending on what we actually want to control. Now, internally, the DM3 has 16 mono input channels, 1 stereo input channel, 2 effects stereo returns, and then on the send side, it has 2 mono effects sends. It has 6 mono mix buses, which can be configured as 3 stereo mix buses if you want. And then it also has 2 matrix sends, which are either 2 mono or pair it up as a stereo matrix send. And then lastly, we have our stereo left-right. Now, the fantastic thing about this mixer is that the matrix send can actually be sent individually from the channels directly. So if I go and select my channel 1 and I go and touch my matrix, I can actually send from my channel to my matrix if I want to. So this is a very flexible board. Now, all of the mix buses and matrix sends can be configured as a post fader, a fixed bus, or a pre-fader or pre-EQ. Now, for switching between a pre-fader and post-fader, all we would have to do is select our channel, and then we can click into our Send To tab, which allows us to set it to pre-fader or post-fader. Now, if we go up into our gear icon here and then go to bus setup, this is where we can set things to be stereo or mono. And then as we can see, we can set it to a pre-EQ variable, a pre-fader variable, or a fixed bus if we were wanting to use it as a subgroup. Now, moving back over to our channel section, we can go ahead and press the home button, as well as then select a channel to navigate our board. Now, this home screen gives us a very nice overview of the channel, but we can actually navigate these different sections to see what kind of channel processing that we have. So on my channel 1, I can go and select up into our input section, which allows us to patch from any of our inputs. And so we can see that we have all 16 in, we have our Dante in, as well as our USB in, as well as our playback or our effects returns. Each channel has a gain adjustment, so we can see that my analog gain can go all the way up to plus 64 and all the way down to 0. We then have our phantom power button, as well as our polarity reverse. Now, this is on every channel. Now, moving down to the next section here, which this scrolls up and down if we click and pull, we have our EQ section. Now, our EQ section has a high-pass filter as well as a 4-band fully parametric EQ. Now, our high-pass filter, we can just activate it and move it to define where we want that to. Our low band has the ability to either be a low shelf or a bell-shaped curve. Our low mid and high mid are both going to be bell-shaped curves, as well as our high band is going to give us a bell-shaped curve, a high shelf, or a high cut that we can select from. Now, what's kind of neat about the EQ section is if you go and set our EQ here, you can actually go click into one knob and basically change the intensity of our EQ cuts or our EQ boosts. So we can see that I can vary the amount, which is great for a new learner. You can go ahead and set this with an advanced user. You can go and set all of your EQ adjustments to where you would normally have them. And then if a volunteer steps in or a new sound engineer that's not really skilled in EQ, you can just go ahead and change all of your channels to be one knob and then tell them that if they need to adjust the EQ, they can go ahead and just grab this one knob to either increase the amount of EQ processing or decrease the amount of EQ processing. Now, moving down into the next section, we have our first dynamic section, and we can activate this by pressing Dynamics 1. Now we have our threshold range, and then we have our range of our gate, of how much we want to attenuate the channel when it's gated. We also have our attack, our hold, and our release, or what this is called decay. We also have the ability of changing between gating and ducking. Now our Dynamics 2 is going to be our compressor. So this is where we have our threshold, as well as our ratio for our compression, our attack, our release, our output gain or our makeup gain, as well as our knee being able to select between soft, medium, and hard. If we continue down on this, we also have individual channel delay. Now our channel delay, we can turn on and set this between 0 and 1 second of delay. And this can actually be set at 0.01 resolution. So we can go ahead and press and then slightly move our touch and turn knob, and we can see that I am adjusting it down by 0.01 milliseconds of adjustment. We then have our effects 1 send, our effects 2 send, and then our sends to our 6 mix buses. And of course, this is where we can go ahead and turn up or down our sends on an individual channel into our mix buses if we need to. And the next thing that we have down is our stereo assign section, which allows us to unassign or assign a channel to our stereo section. We also have the ability of panning from here as well. Now, if you're navigating here on the left, you can also just click the pan right here to be able to use the touch and turn knob for adjusting the pan. We also have 6 mute groups that are internal on the DM3. If you want to use those, you definitely can. Now, the very last thing that we have here is clicking into our renaming section, which allows us to rename our channel or change the color or the icon if we want to. And there are many different icons that we can select from. Now again, all of these are available to us for our 16 mono channels that we have internally on the DM3. Now moving over to the output side of things, if we go and select one of our mix buses, we can go back to our home, and we can see that we can click our first thing here, which is send from. Now this allows us to actually mix our monitors directly from this screen. So I can go and scroll and see my entire console and see what things are being sent to my mixes. The next thing that we have down is our EQ section. So we have a 4-band fully parametric EQ with the same filter adjustments that we have available to us. However, our outputs add a low cut for the low band. So we can see bell, low shelf, low cut. Our mid bands gives us our bell curve, and our high band gives us our bell, high shelf, or high cut. Now the next thing that we have down is a 31-band graphic EQ, which allows us to have 15 adjustments per output. So that means that I can make 15 graphic EQ adjustments over the 31 bands that are on this output. Now this is going to be great for being able to ring out any of your monitors that you have up on stage or front fills and making sure that your vocal mic doesn't ring through or feedback through those monitors. Now moving down into the next section, we have our dynamics. Now this is our Dynamics 2, which means it is our compressor. So I can go ahead and activate this, and then we can go ahead and set any of our dynamics that we wish. So we have our threshold, we have our ratio, our attack, release, our output gain, as well as our knee adjustment. Now the next thing that we have down is our output delay. Now this gives us the ability of delaying anywhere between 0 and 1 second, again with the resolution of 0.01 milliseconds of adjustment. The next thing that we have down here is being able to send our mixes directly to our matrix. And again, we can configure these to either be post fader by selecting that and having it gray, or selecting it and having it be white, which gives us our pre-fader adjustment. The next thing that we have down is our output section. So this allows us to assign our mix buses into our stereo left-right if we wish. So if I wanted to send my mix bus 1 to my stereo, I can go ahead and press stereo. And then we also have our output assign for this mix bus. So we can go ahead and click into this and see where our output patch is for this mix bus. So if I was needing to go ahead and patch my mix bus 1 to Omni Out 8, I can go ahead and just select and change this and add my Omni Out 8. So we can see that my mix bus 1 is going to my Omni 1, my Omni 8, and my Dante 1 outputs on my DM3. Now moving over to my matrix section, I have similar adjustments that I had with my mix buses. However, I only have a 4-band parametric EQ. I do not have the graphic EQ on my matrix section. However, I do have that graphic EQ on my stereo left-right. So we can go ahead and click into my stereo left-right, and we can see that I have my GEQ here. Now I can send any of my channels, my mix buses, or my stereo left-right to my matrix section. And I also can define if I want these to be 2 mono matrix sections or pair them to be 1 stereo matricy. Now the DM3 also has 2 effects buses. Now the buses are mono and the returns are stereo. Now the DM3 has 2 effects sections. We have our FX1 and our FX2. Now if I go back to my input channels here, and on the right hand side of the screen I have FX1, I have FX2, as well as my 6 mixes and my matrix section. And so this is a great way of being able to mix my channels into my sends. So for instance, if I was wanting to go ahead and add reverb or my FX1 from my channel 1 and 2, I can go ahead and do that. And if I wanted to send my channels 3 and 4 to my FX2, I can go ahead and select FX2 and then turn up my channels 3 and 4 here. And so we can see the difference between my FX1 being sent from my channel 1 and 2 and my FX2 being sent from channel 3 and 4. Now if I go and define into my effects, I can go and change to any of these effects types that are built in to the DM3. So we can see a bunch of hall and room, the R3 hall, R3 room, plate. We have early reflection, gate reverb, mono delay, stereo delay, echoes, ping pong, chorus, flanger, phaser. All of these effects are available to us for my 2 effect sections. And once I go ahead and select one of those, I can then go ahead and define my parameters for this effect. And we can see that there's a second layer of effects processing that I can have on this unit. Now remember, once we have our effects set up, our effects return lives on our effects mon fader bank. So we can see that my effects returns are right here on these 2 faders. Now this is going to give me my ability to actually mix my effect into my main left-right, or if I was wanting to send my reverb for some reason to my monitors, I can definitely do that by going and clicking my mix of where I want to send it, and then I can turn this up or down as needed. Now, the DM3-D has our Dante module installed on the back of the board. Now, the DM3 does not have the Dante module. So if you want the Dante module, you'll want to purchase the DM3-D. But if we go into our gear, we can then go into our patch. And this is where we can actually patch our inputs and outputs on our console. Now, again, we have our 16 XLR inputs, we have our 16 Dante inputs, we have 18 USB inputs, as well as some of our playback and effects returns. So this means that we can actually interface this console with a bunch of different things. So say you have this set up with some Dante interfaced wireless receivers, we can go ahead and set our inputs 1 through 4 to be Dante just by selecting our input 1 and changing this to be Dante 1. And then on our input 2, we can change that to be Dante 2, input 3 to be Dante 3, and input 4 to be Dante 4. Now, one quick routing tip on the DM3-D is if we slide this over, we can change everything to be from our XLR ins, all Dante, or all USB. So if you were needing to do a virtual sound check and play some tracks back from your computer into your DM3, then all you would have to do is press all USB, and then press yes, and then we can see that all of my channels are now on USB. If we wanted to change this to be all Dante, we can go ahead and slide this over, press all Dante, press OK, and then we can see that I have all of my channels coming in from my Dante. And again, we can go ahead and go back to all input to be on our local inputs that are on the back of the board. Now our output patch is very similar. So we can see that we have our different outputs for our Omni out, which is the XLR outs on the back of the board. We then have our Dante outputs. So we can see that we have our 16 Dante outputs. And then we have our USB outputs for 1 through 18. Now, by default, our USB outputs are set to be from the channels. So we can see that this is coming from input 1, input 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way through 16. And my USB 17 and 18 is going to be a stereo send from my main left right. Now, one thing to note about my USB sends is this is before my channel processing. So we can see that this is coming from input 1, or I could change this to be Dante 1. Now, this is good because if you wanted to record, then we would be recording without the processing, which is exactly what we want. Because if I'm doing a virtual sound check, I'm wanting to be recording at the input of either the XLR or the Dante. That way that I can play those tracks back into my console and be able to mix as if the band is still up on stage doing their thing. Now, the other benefit of this send for our USB being pre-processing is if we were wanting to interface with Wave Super Rack Performer or Yamaha VST Rack, then that means that this is before our processing, right after the input, which is great because then we can do all of our processing inside of VST Rack or Wave Super Rack Performer, and then we can change our channels to be in from our USB return, which is great. Now there is a ton more processing built into the DM3 and the DM3-D, and I will have a full series of videos coming out in the following weeks and months dedicated to the Yamaha DM3. Now, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope this was helpful for you. If you do happen to have any questions, or there's a video that you're hoping that I would make either on the Yamaha DM3 or really any of the other production products that are out there, please put that comment section in the comment section down below, as I'm always reading through those comments to find videos that are helpful for you. If you haven't already, make sure to check out my website at drewbrashler.com. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great day.